Hello, friends. Welcome to Write in Code. We're excited to have you here as we launch our very first video. And here's a short intro of our channel. In Write in Code, we will be building web designs using HTML, vanilla CSS, and JavaScript. Not only that, we'll be redesigning the same using other popular frameworks like Tailwind CSS and Bootstrap. And coming back to today's video, we're starting our journey by building something truly essential, a world clock web app that lets you see the time in different cities around the globe. We'll be using only HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for this project. If you're curious about how to build this with other frameworks, check out the links in the description below. And if you want to get the source code for this project, the link is also provided in the description. Let's start by looking at the project structure. In our project folder, we have three main components: the index.html file, a style folder containing our main.css style sheet, and a JS folder with our root.js JavaScript file. This simple structure keeps everything organized and easy to follow. Now let's dive into the index.html file. At the top, we set up the basic HTML5 structure and link our CSS file from the style folder and our JavaScript file from the JS folder. Inside the body, we have a main container div with the class container. This holds our main heading, world time zones, and a clocks div that contains 3 clock sections, one each for New York, London, and Tokyo. Each clock section has a heading, H2, a canvas element for the analog clock with unique IDs like analog NY, analog London, and analog Tokyo, and a div for the digital clock display with IDs like digital NY, digital London, and digital Tokyo. This structure makes it easy to style and update each clock individually. That wraps up our HTML file, so let's move on to the CSS. In the main.css file, we start by styling the body with a full-screen gradient background and a background image, giving the app a modern and elegant look. The font is set to Sago UI for a clean appearance. The container class adds a glass morphism effect with a blurred, semi-transparent background, rounded corners, and a subtle box shadow. Our main heading, H1, is styled to stand out with a large font size and white color. The clocks class uses Flexbox to arrange the clock sections side by side and wraps them on smaller screens. Each clock section has its own semi-transparent background, rounded corners, and a drop shadow, with padding and alignment to keep everything centered. The headings inside each clock section are styled for clarity and emphasis. The canvas elements for the analog clocks are given a white background, circular shape, and a soft shadow. The digital clock class features a digital style font, gradient background, padding, rounded corners, and a glowing border effect. There's also a hover effect that slightly enlarges the digital clock and adds a stronger shadow. The CSS uses pseudo-elements and transitions for extra polish. At the end, a media query ensures the layout remains responsive on smaller screens by adjusting the flex direction and spacing. With the CSS covered, let's move on to the JavaScript file. The file starts with the function drawAnalogClock, CTX, time. This function draws the analog clock for a given time zone. The CTX parameter is the 2D drawing context of the canvas, and time is a JavaScript date object representing the current time for that zone. Const radius equals ctx.canvas.width divided by 2 calculates the radius of the clock based on the canvas size. ctx.clearRect 0, 0, ctx.canvas.width, ctx.canvas.height clears the canvas before drawing the new clock. ctx.save saves the current drawing state. ctx.translate radius
moves the origin to the center of the canvas for easier drawing. The next block draws the clock face, a filled circle with a border. The numbers 1 to 12 are drawn around the clock using a loop, rotating and translating the context for each number. The current hour, minute, and second are extracted from the time object. The function drawHand, CTX, position, length, width, color is called 3 times to draw the hour, minute, and second hands. The position for each hand is calculated using trigonometry based on the current time. A small centered dot is drawn to finish the clock face. CTX.restore restores the drawing state to its original position. The drawHand function draws a single hand on the clock. It rotates the context to the correct angle, draws a line from the center to the edge, and styles it according to the parameters. The updateClocks function is responsible for updating both the analog and digital clocks for each city. It defines an array of zones, each with an ID and a time zone string. For each zone, it gets the current time in that zone using local string and creates a new date object. It gets the canvas context for the analog clock and calls drawAnalogClock to draw the clock for that zone. It updates the digital clock by setting the text content of the corresponding div to the formatted time string.
Finally, setIntervalUpdateClocks 1000 calls updateClocks every second to keep the clocks updated in real time, and window.onload equals updateClocks ensures the clocks are drawn as soon as the page loads. And this is a step-by-step approach ensures that both analog and digital clocks for New York, London, and Tokyo are always accurate and visually synchronized. And that's all for today, and thank you so much for joining us on this first coding adventure. If you enjoyed this project, please like, share, and subscribe to Write in Code for more awesome tutorials. See you in the next video.